The Verdict is a live broadcast, and the opinions expressed by the host, guests, and callers are not necessarily those of this station. The references to legal matters are based on actual cases filed in federal and state courts and are matters of public record. Every legal situation is different, and none of the information or views provided during the taping of The Verdict are meant to be legal advice. For more information about The Verdict, please visit us at www.theverdicttv.com. Hello, and welcome to The Verdict, a show where lawyers take you behind the scenes as they prosecute the most action-packed legal cases around South Florida and New York. The Verdict is all about powerful insight and analysis about how to put the law on your side. If you want to call in, you can reach us at 888-565-1470 or write us on Facebook at The Verdict. Now, let's get down to justice. Here comes The Verdict with your hosts, Jay Farrow and Janine Davis.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to The Verdict. I'm your host, Jay Farrow.
And I'm your co-host, Janine Davis. We have the attorney and the expert and the layperson bringing you the law up close and personal.
Welcome to the show. This is a show that's going to take you into the law like no other show has before. And what I mean by that is that we're making the law understandable, accessible, and powerful for you. I mean, how do you get your case completed? How do you get your legal issue taken care of? How do you get into the law? How do you make it work for you? I mean, from the entrepreneur to the people that have been bullied in the law, to people that have been bullied in business, in the workplace. I mean, how do you get there? How do you stand up for yourself? Supporting people to get their voice and to find their voice.
Absolutely. So thank you for saying that, Jay, because today's show is going to be all about providing service and the maximum value for people who are tuning in and listening. And to that end, we're going to get to know a little bit about Jay Farrow, Esquire. So a little bit about how you came to be in the law, how you came to be an attorney. And so if you would take it away and give us a little synopsis on how it is that you came to be an attorney at all. Was this a lifelong dream of yours? Tell us a little bit about that.
Actually, when I was 5 years old, I used to represent the kids in the neighborhood. This is a true story. When I was
crimes against humanity, what were you representing them for?
Well, some of them went on to bigger and better things. But when I was 5 years old, we used to get punished in the neighborhood, for not doing our chores or breaking a window or whatever. But when my friends got punished, I recognized that there's a need. I mean, it's actually a selfish need. For someone to have a defense. So I used to go into my neighbor's door and knock on the door, and I used to defend my friends. I used to negotiate their punishments. And this is a true story even to this day that the neighbors tell me about me going around and knocking on their doors.
Were you successful in the defense?
Sometimes. I mean, sometimes. Listen, it was a matter of a need, and it was a selfish need. I mean, I had to get kids to play with. I mean, hey, listen, if we were going to play a backyard football game, we needed to have at least 3 guys. One guy being all-time quarterback. So that was actually my start in the law. But there was something about something that drew me to injustice.
Okay, say a little bit more about that.
I mean,
I was
bullied as a kid, and not just from the kids in the neighborhood, but just I had some bullying going on when I was a kid. So I felt injustice from a very, very young age, and I knew when it wasn't right when someone would get punished or hit, and there was no reason behind it, and I had a distrust of authority. From a very young age because of this. I mean, it was not like I just didn't like authority.
Sure.
I just didn't like how it could be. It was so arbitrary how someone gets punished. And from those thoughts, and I connected some of those thoughts to watching Perry Mason and Matlock.
Oh, my goodness. So this is a fascinating thing because so many of us are influenced by the entertainment. Well, yes, and also the entertainment that we view in light, when we're little, it makes a huge impact. So the fact that Perry Mason made such an impact on you is tremendous.
Matlock, because he didn't lose too many. As a matter of fact, I remember first of all, there's a couple of different things. He had a very snazzy outfit. Okay. And he had just one outfit that he wore. But I remember he got this one fee. I think the fees were $100,000 back then. That was something. And he never lost, except there was like a couple of cases, and then they got really clever where Metlock was actually a suspect. But there was something about that moment of cross-examination where he used to get the bad guy on the stand, and and get that acquittal. And I knew what that acquittal meant. That moment of someone who's wrongfully accused is sitting there and is going through this whole trial, and then a jury of his or her peers stood up and said not guilty, and that gave me the chills every time I watched that show at the end of the show. And it was just the figuring it out, figuring out how the people doing the real bad stuff were going to get caught, and how they left clues everywhere. And it was awesome.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
But it was the concept of being in that type of service role, to be able to stand for somebody. That also caught my attention. It was that one human being was basically committing themselves to the betterment of some other person's life.
Well, it's interesting because I would say that, that is really what attorneys do. In popular culture, I don't think attorneys have quite that chivalrous or valiant sort of reputation. They have much more of a reputation today of being out for themselves. But in reality, you point to something that is really a cornerstone of the law. It's literally a service industry that is in place to right wrongs, interpret the law, to also defend and protect. And it actually has some really powerful, valiant, I would say, characteristics to it. And it's a shame, and now that you're saying it, it's a shame that it's lost a little bit of that luster in the public eye, because in reality, that's exactly what attorneys do. And people don't realize that it's such an incredibly service-driven industry.
When you're asking me this question, it really took me back to like when I was a young kid, and I felt that sense of injustice when I would get punished, and I felt like it was wrong. And when if I saw my friends get hit, one in particular got hit by their father, and roughed up a bit verbally, and he was like a next door neighbor, and seeing what that kid went through, and I remember knocking on his dad's door, and his dad was really nice to me when he would answer the door. And that used to just tick me off a little bit more. So anytime anybody walks in my office and they have that issue, I think back, and I connect to that sense of injustice, and then it's like my mind has like this explosion of creativity when they're sitting in my office and I'm thinking about the law as it sits, the laws, the statutes,
right,
and then the rules of procedure, and everything comes together similar to like writing music. I mean, I write music as well, and it's just it's very natural for me because
right.
I connect to injustice. I connect to the underdog. I connect to not having a voice. I mean, I connect to that. Children should be seen and not heard. I mean, it goes deep for me.
Yeah.
I mean, it goes really, really deep for me. So, and it's always work out for my benefit because I've stuck my neck out to my, to
sometimes to your detriment.
To my detriment.
Right.
I mean, I say that's part of the job, and I say that's part of the heart that I practice with.
Right.
And it's not usual. I mean, I know a lot of attorneys that it's just the job, or my parents made me go to law school. Not all lawyers are the same. I mean,
Right.
it's just not it's not like that.
I
Not
personally know a lot of people who were kind of forced to go to law school because that was the expectation. And it's interesting, none of them are practicing law today, which is a good thing for them and really for the public, because who needs an attorney who is in regret to have been one? But it's interesting because they got sick in law school. I know a lot of people who actually fell ill with terrible autoimmune diseases and all kinds of different things because they were forced to go.
I've had family members that went to law school and then they got pregnant. I mean, right after law school, and it was like, I mean, it's a really, really nice law schools, and that ticked me off too. It was like, hey, you just got this degree, and it's like you're gonna hang on your wall and do nothing. I mean,
Right.
what's that all about?
Well, to your point, not every attorney is the same.
Not every attorney is the
everybody
same.
practices with heart. Some people are more practical. Some people, well, everybody has different motivations, right? And so, to your point, and you were going to, you had mentioned a case that you were working on where, it was a huge, stark difference, your approach to the case versus somebody else. Could you speak into that a little bit?
I mean, I get that a lot. I'm aggressive. I push the envelope under the rules. I very cognizant how much money can buy your legal work, and how that has a huge tendency to create inequity in the law. And I'm a solo practitioner, and I use every tool available to me, some highly unconventional tools. And these are investigative tools and the like. But it's worth it. I mean, talk about no attorneys being the same. You asked me before the show what's wrong with me right now. It's like, and I'm feeling like this heaviness because I just got back from a trip to Tampa.
Right.
And
so this is a peak in the day in the life of an attorney.
and I'm not. This is for both sides. So this is not just for my side right now. So I mean, we all have the other side has their argument. I have my argument. That's just the way it goes. But to go over there and then we're like this, I'm just going to say, it's like we're not on the right docket. For instance, like there's different dockets. So I'll give you a snippet. Like once you get into litigation, there's what's called motion practice. And the motions are like a motion to dismiss, or I asked for a bunch of documents, they didn't give them to me, so I asked the court to enter an order for me to have these documents. Now, forget about all that fancy talk. Here's the bottom line. If you don't set that correctly, or if the other side doesn't set that correctly on the court's docket of what they're intending to argue, the court's not going to hear it. So I could drive from 3 o'clock this morning all the way over to Tampa and come back to make this show, but and not get what any of us wanted done today. And that was just a resolution of a couple of motions.
Right.
And the reason why, we started doing the show and I thought about doing the show is that I don't think the justice system is serving any of the sides. Forget about just my client's side. I mean, it tends to send, to be for those who want to use it this way, a way to drag.
Yep. Red tape.
Delay, and it's
bureaucracy.
Right. I mean, if you want nothing to happen, just go throw something in litigation for a little while, because nothing gets done in a hurry. It's just not geared towards that. I mean, this is a legal system that we took from England, and we have it here that has procedures and laws set up for a judicial system that was functioning at the birth of our nation.
Right.
And I'm not complaining about the due process, and I'm not complaining about it. What I'm suggesting is that the technicalities and the delays that that you're going to get in court, I mean, that people use this to their advantage on the other side.
Yeah, they use it.
And this is why I think so many people just don't want to have a voice. It's like, oh my God, it's not worth.
They think it's not worth it.
It's not just the fact that they're going to have to go up and confront the witness on the other side, or not the witness, but the company or the bully. Mm-hmm. That's enough.
Yep.
But the years that it takes, I'm looking like the news and I'm seeing like this, these stories about Epstein. I'm seeing like these, these women going through this Me Too movement and the like, and no one stops and acknowledges their bravery of not just being willing to tell their story, but being to tell their story in a court of law, which requires then, before they ever get to court, all of the nonsense that goes on. I mean, you have depositions, you have sworn statements, you have all of these things that, to me, this is where I think the system could be used to bully.
The system itself could be used to bully,
Yes.
is what you're saying.
Yes.
So that's a really interesting point, and I think we would love to hear more about that. I'd like to also invite anybody who's listening who may have a question on a case, or just any question that they'd like to ask Jay about procedure maybe, or anything that goes on in the law. And if you could please call us at 888-565-1470. We would love to hear from you. But we are going to take a short break, and we hope that you stay tuned with us.
Farrow Law Firm, standing up to corporate bullies, using innovative, aggressive, and effective strategies to resolve disputes effectively and timely. Contact us at 954-252-9818, online at farrowlawfirm.com, and on Facebook at Farrow Law Firm. We look forward to being of service to you. You have been watching The Verdict with Jay Farrow and Janine Davis. If you want to call into the show, you can reach us at 888-565-1470 or write us live on Facebook at The Verdict. Now, back to The Verdict.
Welcome back, everybody, and thank you for tuning in with us. Jay, at the end of the last segment, said something really poignant and really fascinating, which was sometimes the system itself is used to bully. So speak into that a little bit for our people who are listening to really kind of get an idea of what you mean specifically.
I have, my law firm, I say we represent or we stand with people to help them find their voice against the bullies in their life. And when I say that the system can be used, for instance, when I write a demand letter or complaint to the other side and say, look, this is the way that we see it. It's certainly, heavy-handed, as demand letters should be. It's like, hey, there's been a legal wrong here. You owe my client some money. Many times, I would say 9 times out of 10, I get a very large law firm, telling me, or, I'm going to come after you personally.
Right. Weren't you just threatened this past Friday with that?
I was threatened this last Friday, and I was like, again. So when you're a solo practitioner and or with a smaller law firm, and then one of the largest law firms in the country sends you a letter, with their letterhead with the 500 lawyers that are on it, and saying, my client categorically denies all wrongdoing, and if you pursue this action, I'm going to sanction you or seek court sanctions against you for filing these things against my client. Well, I mean, let's say that's a start off of using the system to be able to bully, because bullies are going to bully. I mean, they're going to hire bullies to bully. I mean, when you have the financial means and you can pay $100,000 retainer, and you got these guys that just love to bill. I mean, their number one job is
to make money for the firm,
to make you go away, and it's simple. I mean, it's not, to write a letter for something like that costs them nothing. The risk to them is zero. Although I think that's going to change. I have plans to write an article with respect to the chilling effect of sanctions from the larger law firms and to the smaller law firm. That's one way. Another way to bully a system is making frivolous objections in cases. I'll give you an example. Like if you know that you have a large law firm and you're on the defensive side of a case, let's say that you get requests for documents. I mean, every case, the other side is really not allowed any surprises. I mean, there's something called the discovery process where each party is entitled to ask questions of the other side before it goes to trial, and the other side is required to turn over information. Well, the standard for that is pretty broad. Basically, the discovery process is a broad process of asking for information. But routinely, like I just got last week, I'll get like everything we're 90% objected to on basis objections, because every objection then has to go to court and then get resolved in court. Now, there's zero liability for them to object. Zero. As a practical matter.
So, but really, your objections, these baseless objections, are only dragging on the matter.
It's dragging on purposely, though.
Right? No. I hear that. I hear what you're saying.
So
and there's nothing in place in the court system to stop them.
I mean, I could ask the court after a while, to knock it off, and even then, it costs them the risk factor for them getting any meaningful like sanctions is very, very low. I mean, I have a case right now where, in fact, I'm seeing that they've destroyed documents. You know, and because it's it's a calculated risk. Using the system and the way that it's designed to bully means intentional delay. Intentionally breaking down the other side who you think doesn't have the resources is a strategy. A winning strategy in some cases until you meet a knucklehead like me that's just not going to go anywhere. This guy said to me this today. It was like, what happens when an immovable object meets a unstoppable force? You know?
And what happens? Will that remain to be seen?
It remains to be seen.
Okay.
You just got what I always say this, that a lawyer never lacks resources. They lack resourcefulness.
Yes, this is something that you like to say, and I think something that you're being a solo practitioner, you've had to really exercise that more than anybody. Again, your own personal circumstances and your own career have sort of catapulted you into this arena.
It's sad to watch, though, and this is like when I was thinking about this show, I wanted to take this to the public. I wanted to say that what you don't see in the law is the bullying that goes on through the nonsense from the large law firm to the smaller law firm. I mean, and I'm generalizing, but what I'm saying and I'm seeing in the cases where I'm representing someone fighting their voice against the bully in their life that's ripped them off for $10,000, millions of dollars, and then basically you don't even want to play fair. It's not even playing fair. It's like your strategy.
No, it just continues.
Your strategy is to take this down the tracks for 3 or 4 years, because for you're living and breathing off the billable hour, which I've already said on this show is ridiculous. It's a dead business model. I mean, it's like
right.
But it perpetuates all of this.
Correct.
I mean, so when I'm seeing all this, it's sad, and I get that same feeling about that kid that was being verbally abused right in front of me. And not just one kid. I mean, it's like when I was playing sports, when I was like in Little League. I mean, I saw a bunch of fathers beating up on their boys. It's like, and luckily, my dad is just like a saint. It's just seeing that and knowing how arbitrary that was. I mean, I keep going back to that because the concept's the same. We're all a bunch of kids still in the schoolyard, right?
Yeah.
So I'm looking at this where you had the bigger boys.
Although what you encountered today, because I don't want to make it, because it's across the board. What you encountered today was another solo practitioner playing dumb on purpose and delaying.
I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say for him. I wouldn't say that This is the other part about it. It's like he is employing a strategy, albeit, but the one for his client. But it's the system. I'm saying that even whether you try it or not, the system itself fails the underdog, or I will call the underdog, many times because it's not geared to think about how someone's waiting for justice. It's meant to think about looking at the law and getting it right. Unfortunately, the judges are overworked. It takes time. So in this particular circumstance, I think that I had a decent rapport that I established with this guy today. He is a solo practitioner. I mean, I shared with him what his client's looking at. I mean, where my client's coming from. So we had that conversation. This is what I like. This part is that when lawyers actually sit down with one another and cut the nonsense out, they can actually speak, person to person and get someplace. And actually move the ball.
Sort of mano a mano.
Move the ball downfield. Mm-hmm. I mean, what I see so many times, you have email tough guys, and listen, I'm guilty of it too. But I mean, I'm really trying not to send the email out anymore.
Right.
I think that doesn't serve anybody when you can sit behind a computer and be really, really tough. But when you get in front of them, it's like, nothing, crickets, and by the way, this. And how much does that cost somebody?
Yeah.
I mean, my thought is in everything that I'm doing, how do I get my client in and out and on with life with the best service possible, the best result possible, knowing that you're always counterbalancing multiple factors and time is one of them, and then it's also the stress and the anxiety and what litigation does to people over time.
Absolutely.
And depends on which, circumstance you find yourself. But that's the thing is it's a known
Well, so speaking of that, and again, as someone who's not practicing, but someone who's in the practice managing different aspects, what I notice too is that people get litigation fatigue. They get litigation fatigue. They're sick of paying for it. They're sick of going down the tracks. They're sick of the responses of the other side. And then this is why bullies end up getting away with it time and time and time again, because people get tired. They would
That's it.
rather lose
Right.
money. And in some cases, and in some instances, we have a case where someone's home is falling apart, but they're so exhausted from their home falling apart, from the other side dragging their feet and being really disgusting, actually, and behaving in a very disgusting way. Like they'll wrong you, but then please don't come after me. They'll take no responsibility for it whatsoever. All of that stuff, and then they just fall off. But this is how people, we can see through these examples why so many people don't come forward, why so many people wait to the end. And I want to address that a little bit later on in the show,
Yeah, right.
because there's certain aspects as an attorney, I would love to get your advice out there to people about what it takes to bring a case forward, et cetera, et cetera. But this is something that we see time and time again. People get exhausted, and they only started.
So about a year ago, I started look to your point. I looked at my practice and and thought about the concept of urgency.
Yeah.
The concept of urgency, and I know darn well that an attorney has a lot more to do with how long something takes. An attorney has more to do with how a client feels about their case, because you could either pour gasoline on a fire, or you could also run into the fire and take someone off a ledge and say, look, here are the honest realities of your case. And I'm not talking about just my side. And that's the thing. I don't blame the clients on our cases when we're going after some
No, not at
people
all. You can't blame them at all.
have bullied some people, and in one couple of cases in particular, I'm telling you right now, I don't blame 100%. Like, there's a percentage, but I don't, because I don't know, but I do blame and hold accountable the attorneys. I hold them accountable because at the end of the day, we know darn well whether our client did it or not.
Right.
We know darn well what they're up to. You want to know how? Because you could sit them down and have a come to God talk, so to speak, and say, listen, man, this is either you telling me the truth or I walk. Because these attorneys are so wrapped up in this billable hour nonsense that they're looking at cases, licking their chops, and instead of saying to their client, whom, by the way, sometimes run companies that are throughout the United States, throughout the world.
Well, and we've spoken about this too, how irresponsible all of the players are in that sense.
So when I hold the attorneys, because we as attorneys, I'm going to tell you, just we can move things quicker. I mean, and we could do our best to do so. We're not always going to be perfect at it, but at least to be conscious to the concept of urgency.
Right.
Because litigation holds people hostage.
Sure.
Both sides. It holds businesses hostages. I know when I sue like a company, if they're about to go public or sale, for instance, they can't sell their company.
Nope.
And I represent companies that are in litigation, breach of contract actions, and that comes up in the due diligence search, and they're like, hey, you need to handle this. And these are just breach of contract actions.
Yep.
So I'm looking at things, and I want to bring them out. I want to talk about what lawyers don't talk about.
Light.
How much more power a lawyer has or influence over their client to actually enroll them in, listen, buddy, if you did it, it's going to cost you less. And I'm telling you this, we're not getting back time. We can make the money back. And if you're good at it, you're going to make it back quickly.
Oh, yeah.
If you're holding on to it, and you did it, it's only going to cost you more time, because someone like me, because of the way that I'm looking at things in a concept of urgency, I'm going the extra mile.
Well, urgency, and I would say perseverance and stick-to-itiveness. Because, again, we've experienced in the practice that other attorneys may have already given up. May have said, okay, that's it. It's not going to happen, and moved on.
I've heard some stories that would blow your mind. No, not all lawyers the same. I think we're going to
Yeah, we're going to take a short break, and please join us and if you'd like to join the conversation, please call us. The number is 888-565-1470. We would love to hear any questions or write to us on Facebook, and we would love to get to it. Thank you. Meet you on the other side.
Farrow Law Firm, standing up to corporate bullies, using innovative, aggressive, and effective strategies to resolve disputes effectively and timely. Contact us at 954-252-9818, online at farrowlawfirm.com, and on Facebook at Farrow Law Firm. We look forward to being of service to you. You have been watching The Verdict with Jay Farrow and Janine Davis. If you want to call into the show, you can reach us at 888-565-1470 or write us live on Facebook at The Verdict. Now, back to The Verdict.
Welcome back, everybody. And you are joining us right now. And we were just talking about, again, this comes up over and over again, urgency in the law, how the delays by the system itself, by other attorneys, the lack of responsibility on the other side, and really just rogue clients sometimes, not our own, of course, but other people representing them, and how they sort of, lock arms and keep things muddied for quite some time. They have no urgency whatsoever.
I have one guy, and I call him the lawyer ego guy. Just call him the lawyer ego guy for now, and just.
Which one? Because I can't even pick from the spectrum.
And actually, it's like I'm just a little bit on the tireder side than just to be kidding around. But this guy in particular, what I'm saying is,
no, I seriously don't even
sometimes
know which one you're talking about, but it's okay.
It's the ego of the lawyer saying, well, I could prove that on the other side. I could take that to trial. And really what it is just money. It's just money. I mean, and the thing is, if we as lawyers were to really dig deep and get out of our own way and say, all right, let me take a look at all of the pieces here, all the components here, and what is this litigation going to do to my client? Everything is public now. Everything gets filed in the clerk's office. The discovery, the complaints, all this stuff. Anybody can see it. I have a tool now. That anything that's ever happened in any case comes up. In other words, all the motions and people's names and stuff like that. It's like a fantastic search thing. It's unbelievable. The thing is, why? Because if you've been doing this for long enough, you could pretty much get a sense of, where things land. You know how much a claim, generally is, or you can find out, what your client's defenses are, you should. And then you can start doing a little bit of math of where this could all land, 6 months from now, 3 years from now, and where you're going to go. Now, litigation, I'm saying, it has its place. I'm saying for maybe litigation dealing with class actions and mesothelioma or
mesothelioma
and the tobacco lobby and
sure.
I would say that there's some cases that are suited for things that are going to take a while because they're just going to take a while. I'm saying that for the most part, from what I've seen, people could actually sit down and just figure it out. Yep. And I'm the first one to say to my clients, you're not going to get everything that you want. I mean, sometimes you're going to hit a home run, sometimes, but that's the exception and not the rule. And I'm saying, go for your base hit. There's nothing wrong with the single. Get on base with your life and get on with it and use this as a life lesson because, and this is something that they don't necessarily want to hear sometimes, but if you're sitting in my chair and we're going through this, something else has come up. Okay, because you haven't done something for so many years in your life.
So let's get into that, Jay, and be of maximum service if we can to people. So at what point in your estimations should someone be seeking an attorney? Because we see, the reason I ask that and even employ the thing of the time is that we see people who find themselves in litigation after really knocking themselves out probably too long to try to resolve it on their own. In other words, the writing on the wall for a legal action of some kind was there for a very long time. So what can you give a little nugget maybe that you could, or some advice you could give to people about being urgent in their own lives about litigation?
There's a gut check that you have. Let's take a partnership. For example, a lot of people go into business with people that they've just recently become friends with, or they met at the gym. It's people find people, and then they have the best of intentions most of the time to get into business with somebody that sometimes someone has the money and the other person has the idea or the know-how or the resources or the connections, the business connections. Let's take a partnership for example. The first thing that you should do when you're setting that up is right then and there. Anticipation, the thing about having an ounce of prevention. If you're getting into a partnership with somebody, why not take the time, to sit down for a couple hours with the lawyer? Because if you guys don't have $500 to spend on some legal fees, and you might find a lawyer that's willing to partner up with you to the extent that that he or she might become your in-house counsel, and maybe you can do a flat fee structure going forward,
or defer fees, or do all kinds of creative
we want to
arrangements.
work with. Lawyers that work with entrepreneurs. I like to work with entrepreneurs, and I love hearing the excitement and the ideas. I'm willing to come up with a creative solution for legal fees. The first thing to do is say when do you need a lawyer before you think that you do?
That's a great tip. And actually, can we make that the tip of the week?
We can make that the tip of the week. I had my tip of the week feeds into that.
Okay. So we're not there yet?
We're not
Did I
there
get
yet.
ahead of it? Okay.
Yeah, we're not.
All right,
we're not there yet.
You tell me.
If you're feeling your gut, though, that something's not right, and you're going to find it out soon enough, the first thing to do is, go to your partner and attempt to resolve the business thing yourself, and look to your agreement. And if you're looking at your partnership agreement, if you don't have one and you have a gut thing, like you have a partnership agreement, for instance, somebody's supposed to order the parts and they don't order the parts, and you look at your partnership agreement and you don't have one, okay, get a partnership agreement. But if the person's not doing what they should be doing, then you start looking at that from that perspective of getting clarity, and there's nothing wrong, even though it's very uncomfortable, to having a lawyer step in at that moment and write a letter to your partner and say, hey, something's not right with this agreement. We would like to settle this amicably. I'm not talking about a demand letter and complaint. I'm talking about the very beginnings that something's not working out in your partnership. That is the perfect time to create the conversation, because it's going to create the clarity for the rest of your relationship.
Right.
Because there's no points for looking good. I'll say that again. There's no points for looking good in a partnership. If you just entered a partnership.
So what do you mean by that? You mean?
I'm saying there's no
by
points,
looking good.
No points of not calling somebody out. And basically keeping the peace is going to cost you your life.
Okay, so that is really integral, because I think a lot of people, and we see this day in, day out, and I get the client calls, so I see that keeping the peace
can cost you your life.
And at the very minimum, hundreds of thousands, tens of thousands, and for some people, millions.
Over the course of the last year and a half, I can think of about 6 partnerships that didn't work out. And from get-go, there was red flags.
Right.
And if you get a partnership agreement and someone claims to have money, and then it comes to the first times where the money should be flowing and the money's not there, that would be a good time to start looking at that whole agreement, and that would be a really good time to think about talking to a lawyer, especially when it comes to money.
Right.
This is I see this more often than not. You have a money person in a partnership, and then you have the doer.
So that is a partnership, but there are all different kinds. There are, when your boss needs to pay you commissions, there's all kinds of... we have a caller by the name of Michael. Michael, welcome to the show.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi, Mike.
Hey, hello. I'm listening to your show. I think it's very interesting.
Thank you. Do you have a question for us, Michael? We'd love to...
Yeah, I don't know if this will exactly fit what you're addressing, but I'm having several legal issues that are going on, and I'm kind of frustrated.
Okay.
I think you're talking about, I've heard you mention corporate law. Mine is not corporate issues. They are personal issues. One is a trust estate, Can you entertain questions about that?
I can entertain general. I'm not really geared to give out any legal advice, but I'm happy to point you in a direction. I mean, because go ahead and ask.
And I'm not. I guess this isn't really a question. I'm just trying to air some frustration. I have a trust issue with my lawyer, and we cannot seem to get this thing into court. And we've been working on this for about a year.
Uh-huh.
It's a probate issue.
Right. So he's not taking it. He's not taking it to court as quickly as you'd like. Is what's going on?
Right.
See, this is and Michael to that, and like any other partnership, Michael. Like we were just talking about partnerships. You're in a partnership with your attorney.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know who your attorney is, obviously, and I don't know what the whole scenario is. But you have the right as the client to ask what's going on and to know, what the status of your case is. I mean, that's the basic rules of ethics that we're required to let you know. I mean, but the thing is, like any other partnership, if you don't feel right, I mean, there's the opportunity to change ships. Luckily, there's that opportunity as well. But I find this a lot as well, is this the miscommunication or non-communication from lawyers is the number one complaint about this job. The number one complaint is that a lawyer won't call me back. The lawyer, number one complaint is I haven't heard about my case. I don't know what the status is.
Right. Okay. We talk to each other. I don't know what is holding us up. Why we will not file this case. I mean, I think I know what the answer is. Okay, the bottom line is always money.
Right.
He's drawn up the trust. The complaint, he even showed it back to me. I think it looks fine. He says he wants to revise it a little bit. But I think in just what we have, the bottom line, the case in a nutshell is my sister is the trustee of an estate, my family's estate. She has sold the estate and will not pay me my portion.
Okay. I mean, it doesn't sound that.
Here's even another twist. My sister happens to be a lawyer registered with the Florida Bar, and I called them and sent a letter to try to get a complaint on her because she actually happens to be a lawyer.
Can I ask you, have you thought about, and I don't know if you guys have tried this thing of mediation, like, and try to work this out before you go ahead and file it? Because what we're talking about really on the show, Michael, is how not to ever file a complaint. Because that, from my experience, is what's going to end up taking another year or two to work it out.
Right.
I mean, I get now that you have family involved and everything else. But when push comes to shove, it is about money, not just for you and for her, but it's also about the time that you're going to spend for the next, time. And it's the time in court. It's the depositions. It's the court hearings. I mean, you sound like you're pretty familiar with the process already, unfortunately. But that's the whole concept of what we're talking about in this show is how does a lawyer become more resourceful in order not to have to file a complaint? What's the pressure that they could put on the other side? What are the questions they should be asking?
We can't. She just told us she does not respond, or I would love to settle this out of court. It should have been settled out of court. She is just hiding with me for my money. With my money, she is hiding from us.
Wow.
And like I said, I mean, I would have a heart to heart with your lawyer. I really would. I mean, because if you want, I'll just speak completely honestly about my practice and the way that it went for years. I mean, I did a lot of foreclosure defense, and I did. There were some cases and some clients that I had, unfortunately, that did not get the attention that other clients did. And we as lawyers have that file that somehow, some way, slips itself underneath the desk, either on purpose or otherwise, because here's what happens, Michael, is that the attorney doesn't like the relationship he or she has with the client, doesn't like the client, and is not honest with the client about wanting to work on their stuff. A lot of times it's the lawyer that doesn't want to have the uncomfortable conversation saying, I really don't want this case. And you know how many cases sit on the bottom of the pile because a lawyer is like, oh my God, I've gone through all this. It's the end of the day, and now I got to get to this one. I'll do it tomorrow. And I'll do it the next day, next day. And then 2 months go by, Michael. And then 6 months go by. I mean, listen, I was guilty of it. I know that in my foreclosure practice some years ago, that there was just some clients that just, that just they didn't get to, and it wasn't on purpose, but I did have angst with the client. And instead of me just saying, look, I don't think you and I are a fit, I kept their case because I thought I was doing them a favor, giving them quality representation for a reasonable price. But the thing is, if I am having a difficult time with the client right now, I'm not staying with the client. And that's a conversation that you have to have with your attorney,
right.
And he's got to have with you, to be honest with you, if he still wants to keep you as a client. Unfortunately, these things and I'll say even Michael, even for this, when it comes to family issues like you're going through, it's even worse for us because we're human beings too. And he's dealing with a lawyer on the other side who happens to be your sister. And these kinds of cases are like divorce cases. And it really becomes like one of those things that are heartbreaking sometimes when you're dealing with family. And it's like the last thing that you want to touch at the end of the day. But there's some lawyers out there that do family, and that's what they love to do. And there's some lawyers out there
they're really proactive and
that
good
might
at
be
it.
better off working with you. I mean, so I know, because listen, I know when I've been guilty of it myself, where I didn't give the attention that a case deserved. Over time, the case got done and handled properly, but it was because of my relationship with the client that made it difficult for me to continue.
Don't be afraid to ask for the representation that you desire, Michael.
I hear what you're saying. I don't think that's what the problem is here.
Okay.
I think the problem is I don't have. He told me I said, what is this going to cost to get this in the court? Maybe $500. I'm on disability. Okay, I receive a disability check. Work part time. Right now, I don't have $500 to get in the court.
Got it.
This suit is for over 6 figures. Okay, on my end, what I'm to receive, and I think this is an open and shut slam dunk for me. I have it in black and white from the trust. I am to receive 1/3 of the family estate.
And I mean, if that's the case, and your lawyers have a conversation with filing, because listen, there's different fee arrangements. We've been talking about this show as well. There's contingency fee arrangements. There's flat fee arrangements. But if your lawyer doesn't want to file because of the filing fee, and you can't afford it because you're on disability, there are options too. I mean, there are options to go to the clerk's office and find out if you qualify for an exemption to pay a filing fee. Because you're on disability. I mean, there are options for you to get a case filed if you are on a fixed income, and it's set. Oh, yeah? Yes, it's set up that way. So I would check with the clerk's office and find out what those exemptions might be.
Yeah. Okay, because it just don't make sense to me that we're holding this case up over $500.
I get that.
That doesn't make any sense. You're right.
Yeah, I would say talk to your lawyer.
Yeah,
listen, Michael, thank you very much for the call.
Thank you so much.
We're going to take one last break.
Thank you for taking it.
Yeah, thanks, Michael. We're going to take one last break, and we'll see you on the other side of this break.
Farrow Law Firm, standing up to corporate bullies, using innovative, aggressive, and effective strategies to resolve disputes effectively and timely. Contact us at 954-252-9818, online at farrowlawfirm.com, and on Facebook at Farrow Law Firm. We look forward to being of service to you. You have been watching The Verdict with Jay Farrow and Janine Davis. If you want to call into the show, you can reach us at 888-565-1470 or write us live on Facebook at The Verdict. Now, back to The Verdict.
Welcome back one more time to The Verdict, and we had our first caller to the Verdict show. I want to thank Michael for that first phone call. But it highlighted something about this show that I wanted to talk about just for a quick minute, and that is, how do you make the law more accessible? How do you get things resolved? How do you get things done quicker? I mean, how do you become more resourceful? Yes. But also this: attorneys are people. We go through our own human experience. Okay, and getting stuff done it really is. It comes down to, how do we operate as human beings, and being open and meeting clients where they're at also involves like being honest with them about how you feel about them.
Yes.
And if you're a fit, you're a fit. And this is for the clients just as much as is for, I'm talking to the attorneys out there. Don't keep the client if you don't want the client.
Absolutely.
I mean, you can cut them loose and do it in a way that's in integrity and honorable. And it's a better service to the client, because don't hold on to something that you're not going to handle. Bottom line, just let it move on. We owe it to ourselves, clients and lawyers, to be honest with one another about the status of the case and what goes on. Because otherwise, if there's that wall that's still up about, one person's trying to make money, or the other person doesn't want to tell the other person that they're not that, ready for the case or can handle a case that big. The honesty, just like in any other partnership, that's what this is. So, taking you inside the law, this is what this show's doing, is actually about the personalities that come up that get in the way of cases getting done and settled.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And thank you for saying that. And yes, it's not always going to be a fit. An attorney also has the right to say no. No is a full sentence.
Right.
If he doesn't feel right about taking on a case, an attorney also does not have to give you terms. You can ask, but you're not always going to get a yes, and that's okay too. So again, people in the service of other people. And so you're going to get all kinds of things, but we love to give a tip of the week. And so please, Jay, help us figure what is the tip of the week?
Entrepreneurs out there, I find this more often than not, believe it or not, an entrepreneur starts their business, okay?
Okay.
But they don't incorporate.
What does that mean?
Okay,
Say more.
So in other words, they have their business, let's call it, selling a new type of widget product, okay? And they do everything else. They get their Facebook, okay? They get their Instagram, they get everything, but they run everything through their personal bank account, and they never, ever incorporate.
So
and
what would be the advantages for someone to do that?
It's about protecting yourself from personal liability. It's also about when you set up a business, you get to take advantage of the what I call corporate welfare, which is the tax code, which supports business owners, especially private business owners. So but the biggest thing is just personal protection. I mean, if when you're walking around the world and you're selling widgets, and let's say someone said that you didn't sell them enough widgets. I mean, you get sued. And you get sued in your own name. That judgment's going to get against you personally, and not your corporation. I mean, the corporation is. So
what is the distinction for people who would not even understand what you're saying?
As simple as this: if you've not gone onto what's called sunbiz.org, it's sunbiz.org, and that's the Florida Secretary of State website. You could it's a very, very simple website to use, and all you have to do is come up with your corporate name. It could be something. Don't put your name, okay? Not J Inc. All right, it's just my suggestion. You can't do J Inc. But come up with your corporate name, and it's just a matter of get your address. And if I was going to give a further tip, find an accountant or an attorney to serve as your registered agent, because that's just an office that's going to be open between the hours of 10 o'clock and 2 o'clock, and it just gives people a place to serve official letters. But it also shows the public that you have professionals working for you,
right,
off the bat. And it should cost you nothing for anybody to serve as your registered agent. Maybe I don't necessarily charge for
incorporating. Does cost. It does have fees, though.
And it has nothing to do with the lawyer. So
Correct.
If you go into a lawyer's office,
it goes straight to the state.
It goes if they're incorporating for you. Understand that the fees are set by the state as far as incorporating. Now the legal services are by the attorney. So just take a look. I mean, it's $75 or $80.
$75 for it depends on up to $125.
Right, there's multiple ways for you to incorporate, but do it. Because, and some people claim to be partners, and they start working, and then one person's using their personal bank account, or they're both using their personal bank accounts, and they're running things. And the thing is about that is that it works until it doesn't work.
Right. This is a big thing. It works until it doesn't work, and that is worth repeating.
It's like this, Forrest Gump. It's like, things could be like on fire for a while. But the thing is this, just take the 10 minutes to go and incorporate, and you'd be surprised what opens up for you, because all of a sudden you have a new baby, you have a corporation, and you're now a business owner, which provides in some circumstances the opportunity to do all kinds of things, get credit, lease things, buy things. I mean, it's a whole new world. But the thing is, more often than not, someone's been working for a while, And all of a sudden they walk in my office and they're like, I'm like, okay, we're going to take your corporation to the next level, take your business to the next level. And they don't actually have a business. And they're surprised to find that out. So,
Right. So great tip of the week. Get incorporated. Seek an attorney's advice. It's worth it to know that you are doing things in the right way and setting yourself up for success, and consult an accountant to make sure that everything is in line and puts you in the best tax liability.
Simple
attorneys,
stuff.
unless they were tax attorneys, that's not their wheelhouse. So,
Right.
yeah.
And really, I'm glad that we did this show the way that we did this today, giving us the opportunity to slow things down a little bit and show you the practice of law from really like the inside, from at least from my heart as well, of why do I show up and do the things that I do on a daily basis, and support the people to stand up to the bullies in their life and become more resourceful in doing that. It's one of the greatest joys that I have in life.
Sure. Absolutely. Again, it is a service.
It's a service
that you're providing for people.
And when to go find an attorney or when to meet someone. Listen, we're all people, and most of us would be happy to spend an hour with you just trying to figure things out, whatever you're going through. If you're starting a business or if you just lost $1 million, our business is to listen and be able to provide that support. So we will
see you soon, and thank you so much for tuning in.
Thank you very much for tuning
appreciate
in.
you. Thank you.
Thank you for watching The Verdict. For more information about the show and your hosts, Jay Farrow and Janine Davis, please visit our website at www.theverdicttv.com or follow us on Facebook. The Verdict are live every Monday evening at 6 p.m. EST. See you next week.